We're ready.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Battle Creek Public School Board of Education meeting. Today is Monday, February 26, 2024. It's 5:30 p.m. We'll now ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Dr. Alicia Johnson,
Here.
Nicole Perry,
Present.
Catherine LaValle,
Yes.
Nathan Graycheck,
Here.
Art McLeany, Charlie Fulbright, Patty Poole Gray.
Present. We'll have introductions of the interpreters, please.
Hola, mi nombre es Lupita Reyes y yo seré una de las intérpretes el día de hoy. Solo un recordatorio, por favor, de interpretar todo lo que se está diciendo lento y despacio para poder interpretar claramente lo que se está diciendo. Hi, my name is Lupita Reyes and I will be one of the interpreters from English to Spanish and vice versa. Please talk loudly, clearly, and slowly in order for us to properly interpret. A reminder, if you don't want anything being said, please don't say it. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair will now entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
President Poole Gray,
Yes, trustee LaValle.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda for this evening's meeting.
Support. It's been moved by trustee LaValle, supported by Dr. Johnson, that we approve the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Motion carried. We'll move down to public comment. The Battle Creek Public Schools Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the community to express themselves on district matters. We have two opportunities on our agenda tonight for public comment. The Board of Education requests you fill out a public participation form with contact information. As you come to the microphone, please state your name. Each statement made by a speaker shall be limited to a 3-minute duration. If the speaker represents a group, the person will be given 5 minutes to speak. Battle Creek Public Schools Board of Education will listen, take comments and questions under advisement, and not respond at this time. Public commenters will direct all comments to the Board of Education, not to staff or other participants. Do we have any public comment? I'm sorry?
You're doing your cards.
Okay. Okay. Stefano Davis, please come to the microphone. Just a minute, let me get your time for 3 minutes. I'll stop. Already have.
My name is.
Say again?
Just spell it.
No.
Okay. I'm here on my behalf of my past. I work with a place. I'm a case manager. Facilitating the classroom. I'm here on my voice is sick, so it's kind of, and I'm nervous. But I'd like to speak about me being young and so the skills to have I wish I can go back and and just saying the government knows, the government knows, struggling, because told me and suggesting bring children and people to get into the schools, help the young men, the young women. It just does something to me, and now I'm actually it just bring a lot of me that I see a lot of me in me and when I always step into a situation when I see us getting the hostile, the kids may, be friendly, so getting upset. I give them ways to help myself. When I was in Cushman, I took a lot of classes to better myself. I went to school, I was in Cushman at JCC, at JCS, to get my business administrator. Before I was able to accomplish that. And working with kids and trying to give them a better way of life and the things that they may be going through, giving them different situations. And to see how kids going through the same thing I went through is just like,
Sorry, your time is out.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have Damon Brown.
Good evening,
You have 3
everyone.
minutes and I'll set the timer for you.
Okay,
You ready?
yes. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. To the school board and Superintendent Kim. Dear members, we are writing this letter to appeal to the superintendent of the school board to approve and writing the work assignment of Stefano Davis, an employee of Rise Corp. Who has a felony record. With a vision to provide an opportunity of hope for young people and their families to rise from despair and restore their ability to develop life-altering strategies to achieve their goals and dreams. It is the life work of Rise Corp to reintegrate, support, and empower individuals, youth, and families such as Stefano. We believe that at every opportunity is a chance for a person to prove they have worth and value. A job is a second chance at something better. Saying this, Rise Corp would like to express our steadfast support for Stefano Davis and an excellent father and fantastic model for our youth program. Fano grew up in Battle Creek, is a Battle Creek Public School graduate, is a father and friend to many. He works hard for himself and he works hard to inspire the children in our program. He comes in with his head held high and he demonstrates his value daily. Fano has worked hard to regain his rightful place in the community, a place he deserves. The federal government recognizes the power of second chances through programs and legislation through the Second Chance Act. Again, we asked the Battle Creek Public School superintendent and the board to approve his work assignment to work with Rise and working with the children here at Battle Creek Public Schools. Again, Fano is a hard worker and dedicated worker. He loves his job and is great at what he does and is an important and vital part of Battle Creek community. And again, we just wanted to appeal to you all in regards to, like, this is what we do. Helping individuals come back into the community that's been through trauma, been through situations to be now model citizens or, productive citizens in our community. We've done that with not just Stefano, but myself and several other individuals. And this is what we want to be able to show to the young men, especially young Black men in our community and in these schools that is getting in trouble. They are going through things that there is second chances and you can do better. And so, again, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Capri Taylor. Just a second.
Okay.
Give me your time. You ready?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Go
Good
ahead.
evening. I'm Capri Taylor. I'm Stefano's cousin. I've known him all my life. Work with him currently with the Rise organization inside of the schools, outside of the schools. I'm going to read a character letter from Timothy Reynolds that he wrote for Stefano back in 2018. The letter reads, "My name is Timothy Reynolds, and I have known Stefano Davis for over 20 years when I coached him in Battle Creek, Michigan. We spent a lot of time together over the years, and as him and my son grew up together. I am writing to request that Stefano Davis be considered for parole at his up-and-coming parole hearing. Stefano Davis made a horrible mistake that negatively impacted many lives that one night resulted in him being sent to prison, effectively putting an end to his life goals. But Stefano does not feel sorry for himself. He accepts full responsibility for his actions on that night and will be haunted for the rest of his life with the thoughts of the victim and his family. I have always been convinced that Stefano Davis is an honorable man with a good heart and strong sense of empathy. His time in prison has added even more depth to his character. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you would like any further information or insights into Stefano's character." If I could speak on his character from my behalf, not only does Stefano does great work with the kids, helping them to calm down and just understand that there's a better way to handle certain situation. He's also given me a lot of advice too in life, and he helps me to understand a lot of things that I don't understand that he knows. He helps all the staff members as well when it comes to stuff like that, not just the kids. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, the next speaker will be Jacqueline Patrick James, and she's representing the Rice Corporation, so we'll give you 5 minutes since you're representing a company.
Good evening, everybody.
Whoa.
Oops, now my time's not.
Just a second. Let me change the timer here.
Oh, but who's the committee over there? Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
ready?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for having us here today. As a representative of RISE, I'd love to speak on Stefano Davis's behalf because I don't speak on many people's behalf, okay?
No.
So let's say that first. He is an excellent employee. He is an excellent young man. He volunteers and steps up to any task that anyone asks him to do. He loves the children. When he walks into the room, he gives you the presence and a sense of security and safety, and you know that things are going to be orderly. I can assign him a task and he's going to step up to that plate, whatever it is, even if it's outside of his comfort zone. He has become one of our key record keepers as far as keeping our data, our statistics. He's not just, and he works with the young people too, and they love him. And I just want to say that as a spiritual person, God gives us chance after chance after chance. And we as people, when we can't forgive, expect something better from the next person, it just makes the world not such a good place. And I just want to appeal in Stefano's behalf because he's a wonderful individual. He's very soft-spoken, very mild-mannered, but yet he's very strong. And like I said, he brings that aura into the room with him when he comes. He is, again, one of our most dedicated employees. To not have him in that space would be a travesty for our program. And we want to show the community, this is what we do. We work with people that have experienced trauma. We want to see our community grow. He is very valuable to our community and his neighborhood. And I just want to thank you on behalf of RISE for letting us speak because it's an honor, Stefano, for me to speak for you. This is something that you'll always remember, that you are loved and you are valued.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker will be Shannon Patrick. Let me set my timer again. You ready?
I think so.
Go ahead.
Okay, this letter is in support of Stefano Davis. I've had the pleasure of knowing him on both the personal and professional level. I've known him for over 10 years and he's worked with my children through the RISE program, like throughout the summers and different youth programs that they have done. But being a single mother, I don't trust many people with my kids, but his involvement with the youth have provided me with a sense of comfort and security. I know that when Fano is around, my kids are good. I trust him to keep them safe, establish and enforce the rules. But along with him being an authority figure, he's still relatable with the kids. Their ability to identify with Fano, in my opinion, is what deepens their respect and connection with him. There is a need for his type of leadership in not only the schools, but also within the community.
Thank you. Ryan Irvin. Just a minute. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
This is a letter to support Stefano, and it reads, I attended Rise Freedom School as a volunteer, and I was able to witness how Stefano interacted with the kids. He was a great leader because he provided structure in like a current way, so that the kids could relate to it, and all the staff and scholars loved him, and he offers a lot to the program.
Thank you. Once again, as I stated, we will not respond at this time. Someone will get back with you. Okay. Moving right back to our agenda. The chair will now entertain a motion for the consideration of the consent agenda items.
President Poole Gray,
Let's trust in the valley.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the following consent agenda items. A, the trust fund. B, the minutes of the work session on January 8th, 2024. Regular meeting minutes on January 22nd, 2024. January bills for the month. Personnel changes and recognition of retirees. E, the membership report. F, the finance report. G, ESSER Phase 2 and J. Kellogg HVAC renovation contractors. And H, boardroom AV upgrades. Support.
It's been moved by trustee the Valley, supported by Dr. Johnson, that we approve the consent agenda items. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Moving down to discussion. Superintendent Dr. Carter.
Yes, I am so excited because like a breath of fresh air and the wind beneath our wings, in comes Dr. Michael Henry. So I am pleased to announce and welcome Dr. Michael Henry here to Battle Creek Public Schools as the Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations. We're excited that he has joined the Bearcat family, and he joins us from an interim role as Chief Human Resources Officer with Little Rock School District in Little Rock, Arkansas. Dr. Henry has had a dynamic career in education, serving as a classroom teacher, assistant principal, vice principal, principal at at all levels, elementary, middle, and high school. He's been the executive director of elementary schools and a region superintendent. So he brings a wealth of information and experience to our team. His HR career in education has included roles as Director of Instructional Personnel Services, Director of Human Resources, and Executive Director of Human Resources, in addition to his interim position recently. Throughout his career, he has been instrumental in creating strategies to enhance instruction, implementing HR system improvements, as well as supporting educators and other school district staff. He has also invested a significant amount of time and energy in developing relationships with key stakeholders and meaningful partnerships with community organizations. He brings in acute, strategic, and intentional approach to this work in an effort to increase organizational effectiveness. He's earned a bachelor's degree in business from Jones College, a Master of Arts in Teaching, an educational degree in educational leadership from Jacksonville University, and a PhD in educational leadership from Florida A&M University. The candidate pool, there were 5 external applicants. Of those, 1 was selected to be interviewed. After reviewing, screening, and interviewing candidates, the interview team recommended Dr. Michael Henry. The committee consisted of myself, Dr. Amira Magaji, Jeff English, Robin Byer, Brenda DeMott, and Alexis Small. Please join me in welcoming to the team, Dr. Michael Henry. Dr. Henry.
Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, well, she has said almost everything relative to from the womb to the tomb almost. But I am Dr. Michael Henry, and I am a proud product of the Jacksonville Duval County Public School District, which is my home district. And I've probably, we have 50 states in the United States, and I've probably worked in not half, but at least 7 of them. And so we definitely did not want to leave Michigan out in regard to as it relates to my leadership journey, if you will. You might say, why Battle Creek? Why now? Well, when I began to, and one thing that you did leave out that I do a lot of work relative to, well, I used to do a lot of work relative to accreditation. Sometimes in these positions, you don't have a lot of time for those types of pieces, but we always look at districts regarding the strategic plans and the directions that they go. I usually don't apply in districts where I don't see a clear focus and I don't see us, but the things that really caught my attention was the work you do with equity. So it's like, okay, you got a check mark there. And then you have innovative leader that is really setting the stage. Got a check mark there. I asked questions regarding the relationship between the board and the superintendent, and everybody said that y'all get along real well. Because I've been places where I don't. So you got a check mark there, and you just got quite a few check marks. And so that would be the answer to why Battle Creek and why now. And so I'm just delighted. And I must say this before I take my seat. And if you all have any questions, I'm a Southern boy. I'm from Florida. And so I had a certain perception of coming to Michigan because, in Pennsylvania, people don't speak to you when they see you on the street. They just kind of in New York and Massachusetts. And so I kind of thought you all were lumped. I went to the gym and about 4 people just started talking to me. I went to the grocery store and people just started speaking. And I was like, okay. And I went to, and where I moved in, I was kind of reserved, and it's like, people just start coming up, introducing themselves to me. It's like, now I want you to know we friendly. I'm like, okay. And I guess that's the Midwest flavor that you all have, but I didn't expect for you. I need to take them out. Really. And then the people here have been just so gracious. And so I'm just really I hadn't been this excited in a while. And I'm just really excited about you all are full of promise. We are full of promise. And so with this, I thank you.
Welcome to Bearcat Country.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Any questions at all?
Welcome.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving right down to Battle Creek Public School Board of Education governance guidelines and practices.
Yes, so as a reminder, we are continuing to work our way through our governance guidelines in order to create an adopted model. We will be, Kawita will be going back through and incorporating all the changes. We'll do a final review, but this is just about keeping us moving and getting your input. And the last place we left off was at section 3.0. And so I'm opening that up for any discussion, questions, clarifications on section 3 of our governance guidelines.
Oh, Madam
Yes.
President,
Yes.
I forgot my notes last time.
Oh,
So,
no.
you know, I have changes before that. So, I have notes and I did not compare it against where we stopped. I think it was on like 1.3. But I had a couple pieces that I thought needed to be clarified. So 1.3.1,
So you going back?
I'm going backwards. Yeah. 1.3.1,
You're supposed to do three.
page
start.
10.
Page 10, okay.
I got you. Thank you. So 1.3.1, I wanted to add in there, notify the notification requirement for the board president and superintendent when absent.
Okay.
That was missing. 1.3.2.
Trustee Perry, where was that on page 10?
Yep, page
That
10,
would be,
1.3.1. Yep.
Is that what you're,
Right.
okay. Yep.
1.3.2. Adding in that first sentence, board members must conduct all dealings with, I wanted to add each other and superintendent. So penciling in each other in front of superintendent, employees, contractors, vendors with honesty and fairness.
I'm sorry, can you say the
What
number again?
Number.
1.3.2,
Still on page
professional
10.
conduct. Yep, still on
Oh,
page 2.
okay, I
10.
found it.
Says in general, board members must conduct all dealings with, and I think we should add in each other, the superintendent, employees, contractors, and vendors.
Got it.
That's nice.
Okay.
On page 11, 1.3.2.2, part B or point B, I wanted to clarify, is that meant to be because it has personnel? And I don't know if that's supposed to be personal, because in A, it has personal,
This is personnel, so that is personnel.
like the
It's-
actual personnel file
yeah,
information.
Yeah,
All right.
keeping personnel information confidential.
Perfect.
Did I also add right there that trustee Fulbright on C had mentioned disciplinary actions against members of the district? Was that supposed to be us as board members? It surely wouldn't be employees, would it?
Yes, this is saying that you have a responsibility to protect the confidential information, which includes any disciplinary actions that you are aware of.
So can that be worded for clarity? Because I can see both ways of taking that in his discussion with us, and I have his wording. He had mentioned, when is it appropriate for the board to know when teachers are disciplined or removed from a school? Is there a level of something that has reached for us to know?
When it's a termination, so that's under the law, it comes to the board for termination.
Okay. And also.
And
at
you
the-
get that also in your personnel report.
Report, yeah.
True, yeah. That on part D of that same item, where it says failure to follow these restrictions could constitute a breach of attorney-client privilege with loss of confidential information. Could we just have that as a separate paragraph? And just leave A, B, C, and D by themselves, but just make that
New closing,
just a paragraph if possible.
okay.
Trustee Perry, do you have any more on page 11? Because I know I do.
I think there need to be a point of clarification for 1.3.2.4. Interaction with employees, part B, it says may not give direction. I imagine there is probably more detail that needs to be there. I don't know, or if if that's defined someplace else, what we mean by you may not give direction to the superintendent, except for the president.
But she works for the whole board.
Well, yeah, the wording says that only the president
Yeah.
can give direction. That's why I circled that, because I'm not clear. I get the employee, contractor, volunteers, or vendors, but I don't know what we mean by give direction.
I think it's direct, like everything comes through the board instead of 7 people trying to say what we want to see happen, but I don't know, how would you clarify that?
And trustee Fulbright also mentioned the phrase, except the president confuses me. The president can give direction to employees. And that's not truly true.
No.
That's correct. Yeah.
Just give us
Maybe,
direction to the
um,
superintendent.
Maybe board members not give direction to superintendent and in parentheses, except for the board president, and then employees are separate that way. Is that more clear or no?
But we shouldn't give direction to anybody but the
Well,
super.
what type,
We-
when we say, I think it's. What do we mean by direction? We mean like we should, because direction could also mean,
It's broad.
please direct your concern to your direct supervisor. So I feel like we should qualify what we mean by direction. Do we mean like issues related to
not
their?
I would also make a suggestion, maybe we just need to leave out B,
Okay.
just take it off.
Yeah, because it's pretty clear in A that the president serves as the
Mhm.
liaison. So just remove B. Are we okay
If
with
that's
that?
possible.
Okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
And then part C right there, is there possibility to add the words chain of command? Because it's saying if board members are contacted by employees with complaints, the employee shall be instructed to, I would think, immediate supervisor first, then superintendent.
Building principal.
Well, we'll say immediate supervisor because it's not always the building principal. But you're saying, let's make sure it's in the order of contact.
Oh,
Immediate
yes.
supervisor or the superintendent. Okay.
Yeah.
For 1.3.2.4, well, you know what? I wanted to add in students, but this is called interaction with employees, so that might not be the place for it. Now that I'm looking at it again. But that one is talking about, you should avoid harassing, threatening, etc. But it does not mention students because it's talking about employees, so there is probably a place for that, but that was the only addition I had for that one.
Page 12, I had a question where it says proper decorum. Board members shall act in accordance with board decisions and shall not act unilaterally or contrary to board's decisions. What's the accordance mean?
You're saying why, what does it mean by we should act in accordance with the decision? Meaning we should follow the decision?
Just respect the decision?
Mhm.
Should we use the word respect instead of accordance?
I feel like accordance is more specific. Like following like what it actually says, right?
It's at the top of page 12, that 1.3.2.5.
Yeah, I'm following, but I think accordance is more specific that way. But
Is it, I guess my question is it understandable?
It was to me.
It was to me.
And then we have to unpack it as we're onboarding people. What does that mean?
sure.
Is that okay? Okay,
That's fine.
thank you.
1.3.3. Conflicts of interest at the very last sentence where it says the board will seek guidance from legal counsel. Do we, are we specifying there the board's legal counsel or someone's personal counsel?
This is always referring to the board's legal counsel. So do you want to say the boards?
I think that would be a little bit better, yeah.
Okay.
To make it, to clarify.
Page 13.
Before we go to
Oh, sorry.
13, so this makes references under violations of policy 1.3.3.2 to the district's ethics policy. I think that should say the board's code of ethics. That's a specific section of our board policy, section 2302. Instead of just a generic district.
So this should say board members who violate the board's code of ethics.
Right, found in section 2302. We'll have to make sure we
Okay.
tag if that changes, but pointing to the specific section.
Found in policy and then put the number. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then I think for A, violations of policy 1.3.3.2, A, it talks about the code of ethics. I would imagine that we're doing all this work for these governance guidelines. We should say if it's a violation of the code of ethics or the governance guidelines.
Okay.
And that's all I have in section 1.
I have something on 2.0 meetings. The
Mhm.
very first one, 2.1.1.1. Instead of Friday, should we say that's Thursday?
Where you see it at?
On 2.0 meetings, page 13.
Okay,
And then right at 2.1.1.1, creating and presenting the agenda.
Made that change. Thank you.
Do we have to specify regular and working meeting? Aren't those different things?
The work session and regular meeting.
Yeah, work session, thank you.
And at the top of page 15, could we add a G for the regular board meeting agenda? This is the consent agenda. And maybe this could be worded differently. Right after the finance report, other items previously discussed at a recent board work session. And then the only other one I had at special meeting, I think they forgot to put down new business. Is it possible to have new business at a special meeting?
So on pages, before we flip off of there, pages 14 and 15, we have a public comment. And 2.1.3.1, number 3, also 2.1.3.2, number 3, and 2.1.3.3, number 3. We should add or 5 minutes for group
Okay.
to all of those.
That sounds good.
and we also need to add in those 2 interpreters to the agenda.
I'm gonna say interpreters when available, just in case, to give us.
That sounds good.
Okay. Are we okay to move to page 16?
I only had a question about 2.1.4. It does not have any sort of specificity. It just says generically, we're going to create an annual calendar. I don't know if there's a normal time or cadence tied to that. But usually when you add something to it, it happens when you put actual goal or date with it. So do we have the time that we normally set that at? Is it June?
So are you wanting a deadline?
That would be
July.
July?
July.
Okay.
July 1.
To ensure appropriate oversight of district operations and to help the board meet its responsibilities and duties outlined by board policy, the board will create an annual calendar no later than, can we say it this way? The second meeting in August, because that's when we are setting the year, right?
Yep.
That sounds good.
In August, okay.
And we always have 2 meetings a month.
We always do, unfortunately. Okay, 2.2.
On page 16, under D, where it says board members who can't attend a board meeting shall notify the superintendent's executive assistant as soon as they know. And the last line, if the president will be absent, the president and the executive assistant will notify the vice president.
Yeah, that's up to us if that's how we want, if you want to change it, right?
I have marked that to change,
Okay,
because right now we do board president and superintendent from my understanding,
so
so.
change executive assistant to board president.
Well, you could still keep the executive assistant, but I just think the president should be included.
Board members who cannot attend a board meeting shall notify the I don't want to give them a bunch of people.
Next change.
Yeah.
Have a
I
meeting.
agree with you. On page 16, item D, just add the president to that last line.
But it still, it says board president.
It just says board members. Or I guess we're being redundant then.
Yeah.
I would hope that the board president would find out first before it goes to the executive assistant.
Oh.
That's my point.
I think if it's okay, I'd like to take out executive assistant. Say board members who cannot attend a board meeting shall notify the superintendent and or board president. Okay,
That would be consistent with E4.
Mm-hmm. okay.
And we may want to add president or superintendent.
And that will even take out, thank you, that second sentence. They don't have to do all that because we know.
Right.
Right.
And board president and superintendent, just in case.
So
one
can
of
you
them
read
is
that
absent.
again one more time?
Board members who cannot attend a board meeting shall notify the superintendent and or board president as soon as they know.
Okay.
Scratch second sentence. Next, if the president will be absent, they shall notify the superintendent who will notify the vice president.
Okay.
So in the interest of not having too many words, can we just have it say board members who cannot attend a board meeting shall notify the board president and superintendent?
And leave it at that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I like it. Thank you.
That sounds good.
Say the
That
little
sounds
E.
good.
Yes.
Yes, because it covers everything.
It
All
does.
right. Well, you got all that? I'm just. Hey, I got it. I'm writing it down.
Tomorrow.
I got it.
Oh, you're gonna be watching.
I have some for E, there's none before that, but if you guys have some. 2.3.1 E.
Okay.
You got the one about the president, so that number 4. So in the first one, we will keep our focus on the best interests of our students and remain positive in our intent. And I don't know if intent is, I want to say thoughtful of our impact instead of positive in our intent.
What
Can you tell me
page
what
are
number
you
that is?
I'm sorry, this is on page
17.
17,
on?
2.3.1 E.
Number 1. Okay.
Okay.
We will keep our focus on the best interests of our students and remain,
Thoughtful of our impact.
okay.
But I was wondering if these table tents that we have is all that whole section E. Because those are our norms. It's these right here.
Oh, yeah. But we can change the norm.
Well, true, but it's just where, can't we, and maybe some of these are not identical to what we've already decided, but go right along with what we've established as guidelines.
Say more about that? I'm sorry.
Well, the one
So
that,
all of these are cut and paste to right here,
oh,
right?
true.
Okay.
No, these here, right here, came from here to there.
Yes. They're the exact same.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. That
And
sounds
so what
good.
she's saying is just for number 1, we can reprint it because a review, which we needed to do anyway, is to just shift that first norm.
To impact.
Yes, so we will keep our focus on the best interests of our students and remain thoughtful of our impact.
Good.
Okay.
Now, my computer, I had another one, but it just asked me to sign in. That's random.
You want to?
Thank you, yes. For number two, instead of we will be supportive of a decision, I would like to say we will respect the consensus decision-making process rather than be supportive of the decision itself.
So that
Didn't we
actually
just have
goes,
that on one?
yeah, that's what I was about to say. That goes back to, we just talked about the hearing language, or is that at? Maybe we just mimic that language? I don't remember where it
What
was
page
now.
is that?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's one of Dr. Johnson's.
Oh, here it is, 1.3, no, why, that didn't.
No, what's going on?
Oh, acting, it's 1.3.2.5. Proper decorum. Board members shall act in accordance with board decisions. Is the wording that we had earlier in here.
That's that proper decorum.
Act in make sure I'm far away from it. Act in accordance, yeah, with the board decision. Was the wording that we had earlier.
So we want to move that over to this.
Well, if we want to be consistent, does that work, Phil, what you were?
Yeah, I
suggesting?
think this one, what it's intending to say is more about like how our values and how we'll show up.
Yeah.
So I think it's more about like, how do we respect the fact that consensus, so even if you don't agree with it. One
Thing I can say about this board, we've had some discrepancies and we respect one another's
Yes.
decision. Once the vote's over, we're done.
And that's what I think this is getting at,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But I'm okay with
You're
this.
So
saying-
can we loosen, it's more of we will, right?
Yeah.
We will keep our focus on, we will respect the consensus decision-making process, whether we are for or against,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That helps. Yeah. So add consensus there. I like that.
Okay, what are we changing to?
Number two, we will respect the consensus decision-making process. Right. And then it would be, whether we are for it or against it. We will show respect for each other, right? We will respect team meeting time. Notifying the president or superintendent if arriving late or not at all. We will build upon the ideas of others, and all the remaining ones stay the same. Good?
Yeah.
Yep.
The only notes I had was I wanted to strike all the we wills out of there. I didn't think
do
they were
what?
necessary.
Like what out?
But they are showing up on here. We have consensus on we will.
No, I will not. Okay, it's not a hill I'm gonna die on, but I don't like it. It's just for me. I eliminate all. So mine says focus on the best interests, supportive of or whatever you change it to, show respect for each other. Cause like the way the rest of this is written is not written in like I'm taking an oath, and then we flip into oath mode on E. So for me, that just made.
That's the lawyer.
I'm okay, right.
It bothered me. I'm sorry.
Look,
Simplifying.
yeah, it's
That's
okay.
right there.
What's the pleasure of the board? So for the first time, let's respect the consensus making. And what is that consensus making
That's right.
process we want to hold?
So you want
I
to
don't-
do all that?
She just wants to
I
take
just
the
want to
we
strike
will.
we will off.
Oh, okay.
And
But I
then
think
what
it
you will
reads okay
see
if
on
you
here is
give it a
just, here are
try.
our board norms. I don't know that. It's okay. I don't hear from everybody. What do you want to do?
I've always thought it was strange too, but it's like also it's not,
Okay,
a hill,
we
not a
will
hill I
move
wanted to
on.
die on. It was no big of a deal. So like, but I
See?
agree, it's strange. I always thought it was a lot very wordy. I always thought
Yes.
that.
So you do have agreement.
We have agreement that we will be gone,
Yeah,
okay? We
that's
will
fine, yeah.
take the we will off. All right, I'm okay.
That's good.
232, And we will not be doing 3.0 tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. I appreciate that.
For B, we need to add the 4 or 5 minutes. So add for individual, at the end of the sentence, for individual concerns or 5 minutes for a group.
Gotcha.
I wanted to also add, why don't we just add our scripts that the president is reading as we introduce the public comment session?
I can make that a paragraph and right after it, so.
Because it does
Insert
mention
script.
5
It does
minutes.
mention 5 minutes, yeah, for a group.
But just, can we insert the script somewhere in this? Because we do want audience participation.
You mean like write it in this document?
Yeah,
Yep.
I was thinking that after B, it would be a subset under it. The board president may use the following script,
Okay,
right?
that
But
sounds
not, it
good.
won't change B.
Oh, you're adding it to B?
Yes.
Okay.
How does C happen? I'm just curious.
See, with groups speaking.
Yeah. So
Because
who does the,
sometimes people come as a group and they decide to give their time up to, with the group designee person taking
I
5
thought it
minutes
was on
for the
here.
group.
That's
right, so how does it happen though? So do we, with the board president say, I see 6 of you are here to talk about the same thing? Can one of you
Sometimes they'll
represent?"
note on the card.
It's on the card
Oh, okay.
if they're representing a group. And that's what Jackie Crawford put on her representing group. Was
Gotcha.
wise, yeah.
Okay.
So for B, you said board president, but we want to say board president or whoever's running the meeting. Whatever.
Presiding officer.
Thank you, whatever the proper way of saying it.
Good.
Because it might not always be the president.
Right,
Right.
presiding officer. Gotcha. Okay.
On the same page there on 17 on D, it says the communications portions of our meeting. I don't see anywhere unless someone gives us correspondence to read. Do we have a communication section for our meetings?
I think that was brought over from another example, and so maybe it doesn't apply to us. We can remove D.
Don't remove D, because I think taping, videotaping, and photographing are permitted in an area designated by the board and in such a manner as to not disrupt the dignity and function of the board meeting. And I just think if we just drop part of that sentence off.
The last part, taping video, that last sentence,
Mhm.
all the way to the next page can be removed.
And
But
I think
But I think too, if the meeting is being disrupted, the board may direct all taping, videotaping, or photography to cease. That's within our ability to conduct our
Key word
meeting.
is disruptive, but you know, when we have the students to come in, we want people to be able to videotape.
Well, remember Access Vision was always videotaping us. But I just think that communications portion of our meeting, just take that out and leave the rest.
I think, well, the way I read it is related to like our active meeting, so the communications portion, so you're just saying that's unclear? Having the term communications portion?
So my question is, what is our communications portion? Is it just public comment? Is that what we really go by?
That's how I read it, but it can be more clear, because
So make it public comment.
Did we reach consensus on that one? So here's how I have it reading: taping, videotaping, and photography and photographing are permitted in an area designated by the board in such a manner as to not disrupt the dignity and function of the board meeting. Skip. Next sentence. If the meeting is being disrupted, the board may direct all taping, videotaping, or photography to cease.
I can live with that one.
What's the designated area though? Is it just in the meeting? I think that's what we're trying to click. I'm fine with that too, but designated area makes me feel like we have like a room, people go in.
Taping, videotaping, and photographing are permitted in an area designated by the board. Are permitted, can we just say are permitted in such a manner as not to disrupt? And take out the
That
area,
helps.
okay. Okay, taping, videotaping, and photographing are permitted by the board in such a manner as to not disrupt the dignity and function of the board meeting. Here we go. Right. 233.
I would just add on page 18, 2.3.4, there's no B. And then I said, the board will not encourage or actively participate in negative comments regarding individual employees or students. Why would we do this? Does it even need to be a part of our document?
Probably.
I think so.
Yep.
We got too many people changing.
Something
Yeah,
must have
I
happened
think it-
sometime.
Yep.
But it doesn't need an A in front of it. There's no other.
Okay.
Just leave the A off.
Okay, anything on page 19?
What is presentments? That's in 2.3.5.
Yeah.
Presentation.
I
I
didn't see
It's a
that.
different word, isn't it?
think it's presentation.
I think those are
but maybe it's a
presentation.
fancy
Doing
way.
hearings or presentation.
Yeah, it's a fancy word for,
I thought our
Presentation.
hearings and grievances, aren't they held by Ms. Cheeks, parents, students, and then an advocate for the board?
Oh, presentment, a formal presentation or information to a court, especially under sworn jury. Never.
Can we just say presentation? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think
talk
so.
about equity and language. Like,
You're not a
third
court.
grade.
Um,
Okay, change to
Change to
presentations
presentation.
during hearing or presentation.
Oh, they did it twice.
Oh yeah, it's an A and B. Okay. So for C, I thought we needed to add a little bit more, so the board shall not use any students' names outside of closed sessions related to employee discipline.
This or student, employee or student.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Just because like in some people's comments, they'll
Oh.
give an accolade to a student, but this is so broad that technically it
Okay.
would be saying we couldn't do that.
Hmm.
okay. All right,
That sounds good.
anything else on 19?
I added a D possibly to 2.3.6 with the discussion of motions. The president can speak to the discussion after trustees have contributed to the discussion. Or someone could read that, refer to it better. Because usually the president will be the last one to enter into a discussion.
I'm sorry, what word did you say?
I'm adding a D
Oh, okay.
just right after C.
Mm-hmm.
And then a D, and it may be too wordy, but usually the president seems to be the last person to enter into the discussion, as all other members have added to the discussion.
That's not necessarily always the case though, right? Is that what we're saying you want to happen? But sometimes it's a back and forth. The president will jump in at points. I'm just asking.
Well, I think the president's free to and maybe even the president would start the discussion. That's a possibility. When it's time to discuss the motion that's in front of us.
So I guess my question is, what's the need for D? I'm not certain. I was just not clear.
I was just wondering if it needed to be added for courtesy of the flow of the discussion.
I don't think so. I think, like you said, sometimes it may not be the case. If we put something like that in there, it means the board president has to wait for everybody to speak, if I'm understanding what you're saying. And we don't want to constrain the president to that.
I know they're the last ones to vote, so let them
Sure,
speak freely.
that sounds good.
Thank you for,
How about 2.4A, the board members shall abstain? Could that be in bold print?
Didn't we have a discussion once before about a board member abstaining and they really didn't have a reason why? They just wanted to
Exactly.
abstain, yeah.
this is about conflicts of interest, though.
That's
So
so true.
what is the reason why board members should not abstain?
If they can personally, if you're voting on something that can personally impact or enrich you.
Right, I understand the conflict of interest, but this is saying, unless it's conflict of interest, board members should not abstain, basically. I'm curious
Right.
why, like if you just didn't have an opinion, if you just wanted to, whatever reason, not vote that time, why do we want to not let that happen? I'm not clear on that, it's why of it.
I think you have to have a reason why you're not
Yeah.
abstaining.
Because you're an elected person to represent the constituents, and so to say, it's like saying to them that I'm not gonna vote, I'm not gonna do my duty of casting a vote, is the way it's been explained to me. So you should always vote one way or another.
Sure, I mean, I'm not saying I
Unless
disagree,
it's
I'm just curious,
Why?
yeah, the why behind it. Conflict of interest is an obvious one, but if there was another reason, I don't know.
So in the past, the way it's been used, my experience on this board is people will, I don't agree with the discussion. I don't like what's happening. And so I'm gonna just abstain. But then you should just vote no.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then maybe we could think about taking that out.
No, this is about conflict of interest. I think that was just a clarifying discussion.
Yeah, I appreciate it, I just,
Yeah.
that makes sense, actually, thank you.
Right.
And then I would.
Making our way to page 20.
Well, 2.5 needs a B unless you just want to take off the letter A.
2.5, remove the A. 2.6. And 2.7.
Is this where we want to detail that we as a board have the tradition of every 2 years rotating chairs? Physical chairs?
How do you guys feel about that?
I couldn't hear you.
So how you guys feel about that?
I think this would be the place where you would detail that's what the board has always done.
So what happens if the person's time is to be in this chair and they decide they don't want to?
They
You would
can
still do it.
decline it. We had a board member decline being a president.
Okay.
What happens if you want to stay president? It's possible.
It's
But,
possible. There's some
under our
boards that have
bylaws,
presidents
yeah.
For years.
But
I know
it is
that-
the practice, so basically what you're saying is under B, we could say, it is the practice of it is the practice of the board to rotate seats every 2 years to provide, I don't know what the why, but.
to provide the ongoing, or it's not ongoing position, but a new opportunity to be an officer.
Okay, I'm gonna take a stab at that, but I'm gonna need the board to actually,
Are you talking about 2.7.1?
yes.
Yes.
It will go under B. I'll take a stab at some language and then we
Mhm.
can fix it up and we do a final review.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And we're done on page 20. So
Nope, I got 2 points. I was waiting. 2.7.3. F.
F. Okay.
I wanted to change that. I gotta read my notes. I can't read my handwriting now. Hold on. So I have to serve and remain on a committee. A board member must complete the MASB, and we need to spell out MASB at some point in this document before we start using it shorthand. Level 1 course related to the committee subject within 1 year placement. Because right now, the way it's worded, you can't join a committee when you first get elected on the board.
I remember us talking about that somewhere else. So to serve and remain on a committee, a board member must attain MASB level 1 certification within 1 year.
Spelled out.
Somewhere in the beginning.
But did we talk about 2 years? Was
It
it?
can be 2 years too. I just threw in a number because right now it just says immediately.
I thought our last meeting, we talked about up to 2 years.
That's fine with me.
Okay. Got it. All right. Okay, we'll come back to 3 at our next meeting. All right.
Okay, let's get back to our agenda.
Thank you.
Reports and recommendations. Teach upbeat exit interviews, Alexis Small.
So, good evening. You have the recommendation in front of you, correct? Okay, so I'm not going to reread that. I'm just going to give some additional information or just kind of add to that. So as a part of the human capital strategy in our BCPS 6 goals for greatness, we have a goal to see a 5% decrease in our annual turnover rate. Feedback from exit surveys can be extremely valuable regarding insight into our district's culture, as well as highlighting opportunities for improvement within the district. And since the district has not consistently administered exit surveys to staff who have resigned from the district, Upbeat is going to do that work for us and assist us with that. So they will administer the exit surveys in a timely manner. Responses will be anonymous, which will hopefully encourage more people to participate. And in addition, they will also provide consultative support based on survey responses and findings. So any questions for me?
Madam President.
Yes, Dr. Perry.
So I have a question related to how they administer. Ideally, the best way to do an exit survey is like a face-to-face or a conversation or a meeting. Do you know if they're going to do these like where they contact people, or are they sending out like a survey?
They're sending out a survey.
Okay.
Yes.
And
so let me add to that. That will not keep us from doing in-person exit interviews if we want to do that.
okay.
But this will be an anonymous way to administer those exit interviews or exit surveys.
Okay. And currently, do we send out a survey or we don't capture anything? No? Okay.
It hasn't been done consistently.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
If we, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, Dr.
if we do them in person, so like, let's say a staff person requests that, will the questions that we do in the in-person exit interview be consistent with what they're doing on the survey?
So that's a great question. Everyone will get the emailed survey. So if we were to do an in-person exit interview, it may be redundant, but that is something that we can look into if someone wants to also do the in-person, or they want to do in-person in lieu of the emailed survey. Mm-hmm. It's a great question.
Good question.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't want it to get lost that you have been offering some in-persons, but people just don't come in.
Right.
So it's not like they haven't been offered, but
It's
Any
been
other
available.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, here we go. Property updates per Hayden.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Did you guys get a chance to peruse and read the recommendation, read my updates here?
Yep.
Are there any questions? Okay, that's good. We're just going to try to reopen this, get it started, and see where we can go with it.
I have one question.
Yes.
Could you secure a price for demolition?
Yes, I actually have a meeting with Mr. Dent of the city
Okay.
next week on the 7th, and we're gonna investigate that.
Well, we need to put it out there. That's
Yes,
what I'm asking.
yes, I am. And if you guys are interested, I shared it with Dr. Carter. The Free Press had an interesting article regarding building in West Bloomfield School District. Very similar to what they're doing, what we're doing here. They have a building that they were looking to either repurpose, and they actually came up with and said we're probably going to try to demolish it. The one thing that we're in lockstep with is we don't want a charter school in our backyard.
Right.
So that's one thing that we'll definitely work on, and either way, either try to get it repurposed or we will knock it down. All right.
Any other questions?
I mean, that makes sense, not just for the reason you said, but I mean, we've seen the liability they can be with fires, break-ins.
Yes.
I mean,
And the
yeah,
quick,
eyesores.
the quick anecdote I want to share is being from Detroit. Unfortunately, we have seen some of those hazards that have come in, and even more so in buildings that are left abandoned for any length of time. So I've taken that as one of my personal charges to get those buildings off our books either way. All right.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to superintendent mid-year progress reports. Dr. Carter.
So as you can see, the team is in the room today with us because as their departments come up on the board report, they'll be able to offer additional context around strategies for change. This is the board update, mid-year progress review. And let's see if I can get this to work. There we go. So what this progress report shows us are the key data and insights showcasing our district's performance, initiatives, and achievements thus far in the academic year. From student outcomes to program effectiveness, this report highlights our collective journey towards educational excellence. I also think it's important to note that this is a temperature check. It really is designed for us to understand how are we doing, what is the current trajectory, and what are the mid-course corrections that need to be made in order for us to hit our end-of-year goals. So, as it relates to student achievement, our focus has been to have a laser-like focus on literacy and numeracy, to implement evidence-based routines for literacy instruction, increase opportunities for students to engage in reading and writing across the curriculum, redesign the middle school experience through advisory and student goal setting, and we've been working to review and revise our curriculum to be guaranteed, viable, and standards-based. Some of the key celebrations that we were able to uncover in the data review is that students are at or above STAR testing benchmark scores. Students that are scoring at the at or above level increased in all K-5 schools. And so STAR is a progress monitoring assessment that we use in between NWEA math. So they're taking that monthly so that we can watch and see a correlation to what's going to happen on the NWEA map. Some of our double-digit gains occurred at Lamora, Post Franklin, Verona, and Fremont. We're on pace to double the number of accelerated books completed district-wide since last year and have already surpassed last year's total. So I'm going to ask Mr. Bish, Director of Elementary Programs, to come up and talk a little bit about the accelerated reader participation. And I'll go to the key celebrations back if you wanted to say anything more about that.
We can go to the next one.
Okay.
So one of the things that we track is that students are engaging in accelerated reader. That percentage that you're looking at there is showing that students have participated in accelerated reader at least once in the past 4 weeks. Our goal is to get 75% participation rate at every school because we know that if students are engaging in reading, they're more likely to become fluent readers and engage improve their literacy scores. One of our goals is more than 30 minutes a day of reading. So we're working on that because we know that the data shows that if students are reading for more than 30 minutes a day, their literacy scores will improve year to year. We're talking about homework, talking about in-school practice, which is where Accelerated Reader comes in. But if you look at the chart there on the left, it shows this year to last year. We are at about 15,000 books. And these are books passed, not just books read. So these are quizzes that students have passed in our district. Last year, our max was about 14,500. So we've already surpassed that. We set a goal in January to get to 12,600, which would have given us 1,000 increase in the month of January from mid-January to mid-February. And we've done about 4,000 books since we've gotten back from Christmas break. So we're showing a lot of gains there. We're hoping that continuing this practice will create a culture of literacy in our buildings.
And can you say more about what you noticed in regards to the correlation to NWEA?
Yeah, so one of our noticings in, it's not exact, but when you're looking at the trend, the schools that are participating in Accelerated Reader and they're having more students participating and are passing more books are typically the schools that are showing the bigger gains in STAR and NWEA. Our schools that struggled the most on NWEA here in the winter assessment are the schools that have the lowest participation rate. Yes.
May I ask, so the schools like Dudley, ENJ, and Fremont, what are they doing uniquely to be doing so well?
So a lot of things come around with school-wide initiatives, right? So if you walk into Dudley, one thing you can see is that they're tracking every student on the boards. Right when you walk in on the left, you'll actually see a race for reading. They're doing school-wide book competitions. They're on a goal, I think, to read 4,000 books, and that's just books that the class is reading. So they're posting up the books after they read them. But generally, what you're seeing in these schools that are getting that high rate is that they're providing independent reading practice daily and that they have some sort of competition or school-wide focus and initiative on improving literacy. So a lot of schools, you'll see things up on the walls in the hallway with books that students have passed. When they pass the test, they'll slap up a heart in the hallway or part of a caterpillar worm going all the way down. But
Can I ask about that? Yeah. Is that left up to the administrator to determine that, or is that something that
so we set here, we set a lot of expectations and provide information for our school district, for teachers and leaders. But we work with our building principals to see what works best for them. So for me, one of the things that I talk with principals is how are they going to engage students to meet that goal? I don't think we want to say everyone has to do it the same way.
right?
But one thing that we can do, and we often do, is that we learn from each other and we learn from what the successes are. So that could be some of the work that we're doing at upcoming principal meetings and things like that.
So looking at these numbers, I think you said the goal was 75, right? 75%?
Yes.
So there are some numbers that are way off from that. Are
Yep.
there going to be some conversations? What is the plan to try and get some of these schools that are really low
Yeah,
up to
so
that level?
I don't think we actually have the graph on here that shows from last year, but
Yeah.
we actually, at our highest rate last year, we maybe got to 50% in the spring last year. This year we saw right now we're at our highest peak at 63.5%. And that was just at the end of this week. Coming into Christmas, we were at about 53%, and we've been raising by about 4% every week. So we're tracking that. Different things like emails out to staff, letters going out to teachers so that they could send home. We put something in the newsletter this week just about how we're engaging students in reading and the Accelerated Reader program. So our goal is to keep elevating until we're at least at 75%. And then I think the schools where we're showing that lower percentage, it's about how do we fix the system, right? Because there's obviously something that's not happening in those buildings or not happening on our end that's allowing it to happen. So.
I think that was the intentional question, is like where it's 29.7%, where it is 20.3%. What's the strategy for improving that?
So right now, where you're looking at the lowest, which is Northwestern Middle School, the strategy right now, they've been trying to incentivize students to read more. They recently just had a raffle of all the students who passed this test and they ended up winning something. One of the things, and this is not all of the reason why it's 20%, but one of the things that we're doing at Northwestern right now is sixth grade Math 180 and Read 180. And they needed to do some troubleshooting around students actually taking this test because they were trying to implement with fidelity, which means they were taking a different test, but now they need to take this test and figure out how to match up the titles so that we make sure we're getting true data around those 81 students who are not taking that test right now because they're doing Read 180. So that's one, and they're continuously incentivizing. They're putting books up on the wall, but we're trying to get to the 75% for sure.
Okay. Stay there because we're gonna go through some data. All right, any other questions about this page? All right, so next we're gonna go over the NWEA MAP testing, which tracks whether students are on track to meet their spring goals. So again, this is a temperature check. This winter's testing window was extended additional week due to snow days. So we take that to account and we look at two different things. We look at growth, which is the percent of students who met their growth target, which means all students have a target that's individualized. In order for you to make annual growth, this is the target you're trying to hit. Proficiency is the national norm. So the percent of students meeting or exceeding the 50th percentile year over year. And the team can add. So what you see here is that our NWEA MAP winter reading growth, we have 3 years of data and we're trying to really come back. This is the snapback is what I'm calling it. The COVID has a long tail. And so what you see here is that in 22-23, our kindergartners, only 49% of them were hitting their goal. This year, 54% of them are hitting their mid-year goal. Again, a temperature check. We were not testing 9th and 10th graders consistently. We've implemented that this year to make sure we have better data on our high schoolers. And that's why you don't see your data from 21, 22 or 22, 23. So any questions about this one, or do you want to add anything? Important notes.
No, I'll just say, we've noticed over the last couple of years that there's been this trend around second, third grade. I know our buildings are working really hard to try to find a way to accelerate learning in those grade levels. A lot of different intervention plans and systems that are being put in place where this was really promising this year to see second grade go from 37 to 45, which is nice to see because second grade has been an area where we've been typically struggling. So we're hoping that some of the work that we're doing is getting us back on track there.
So again, this is information. And what I see in this data is that we're making growth, but it's not transformational progress. And this is not going to get us to proficiency. So we got to figure out catch-up growth. What you see in this data is that many of our students are behind. We can get annual growth, but they need catch-up growth. And so what in the system can we continue to adjust to catch up 2 years of instruction that was lost? And for many, it's more than that, given that the pandemic was on top of that. So that's what we're wrestling with right now. On the next slide, you see reading. Did I skip it? Okay, yeah. So reading growth by school. And then we look at reading growth by race ethnicity. And then we look at proficiency. So what percentage of our students are at or above grade level is how you determine this, and you can see where that we start strong.
Yeah.
But we have to figure out what's happening in second and third grade that's creating that significant dip, because we know from the data that once you are behind, it's really hard to catch up. So you see the strength of our early childhood work, but something's happening in second and third grade. Now, turn it over to you guys.
So the one thing that I just will name in this is that we've spent a lot of focus around K2 this year. We're working with Midwest REL around instructional routines in the science of reading. And so that is one thing that I think is showing up, because if you look at K1, 2 in this year in the gray, we are much higher in the winter this year than we have been in previous years with K1, 2. So we're hoping that we can continue building that and come into those later grades a little bit higher than we have been.
And I'd also like to mention, as you look and how we try to recoup kind of going into middle school, we've done some work with teachers around disciplinary literacy, because in secondary, you're teaching from a content area perspective. So working with disciplinary literacy, as well as we've been able to institute literacy tutors in 2 of the middle schools, as well as really shoring up direct instruction and trying to provide support with the instructional coaches with specific teachers around that. And also, as it'll probably mentioned, working on making sure that our curriculum is secure.
Questions?
I have one. Have we explored? I know that it sounds like we've done a lot of interventions around like the time they're in school, but what about like that after school time? Are there resources available or things that we've explored to try and, I mean, understanding that's out of the school's control at that point, but is there a time or a place or something that can help encourage reading outside of school?
Or in the after school. So it's, I don't know, Harvey wants to speak to it, but I believe.
I think later in the presentation, we're going to talk about 21st century after school programming. And we do have a community literacy campaign that is going on right now in terms of trying to get churches and others to help us promote reading. We're also working with Willard Library to bring in some other reading initiatives, but yeah.
We're also looking at potentially finding some of our areas that we're struggling year to year. Like we know our transition into high school has been a little bit difficult for our incoming 9th grade students. So thinking about just recently, we've been talking about a bridge program, right? So like what support can we provide over the summer? So a lot of that is just kind of coming up with ideas and seeing what might be the best plan. But we are definitely looking at what we can do in the summer and after school in the community to get better outcomes.
I think what's worth noting is we're in the process of doing achievement impact presentations right now, where we go to every single school and they talk about this data from their own perspective. What are you doing at your building? And so we've already had the high schools and they've implemented homework club, which they're seeing some impact on. So that's how they're responding to the data. So right now, every single school is creating their action plan based on what they see. What are they going to do differently?
So a creative thought, one of the things that I've always appreciated about Battle Creek Public Schools, and I was reminded of this when I saw the Black History Month videos and stuff that went around the other week, is one of the things we're good at is being true to who we are culturally. And so I'm wondering if we've thought of some creative strategies to engage our young people in reading, even if it's incorporating like music. And I know that's the, kind of like what we're hoping for with Northwestern, but I wonder if it's the opportunity to be innovative in some of the ways that we engage them, because we have the ability to do that, right? So just a thought. The other question I had, with the growth by race, ethnicity, huge dip in 2 or more races, was that just maybe by population, or I mean, like the sample size or population number of students? Or
I'll be honest, I am assuming that is a skyward tracking maybe error,
Yeah, it
because
depends
that
on
is
how
pretty
you-
significant to be at 96% proficient. So I think that number might be off. I think the other two might be more accurate, but we can get you what that is.
I think the 96 is a blip and not correct. So, yeah. Thank you. So then we can look at, we've added some data around reading proficiency by race and ethnicity. So we do see some gains, but again, we're not satisfied. And this is a temperature check to say we need to still be looking at our African-American students, and actually all students are moving, it is everybody. So then we move to math. This is our growth data by grade level. Again, early start, strong start. But the start has to be even stronger in order to sustain.
So one thing I will point out is third grade math. This is the first year that we have the prep program at all, at 3 of our 4 third grade buildings. That is working with Western Michigan and the prep program on teaching math through some of the Chinese math teaching methodologies. And Dr. Shin is working with a team that is actually in our buildings, working with teachers and working with students. So that was kind of a nice blip to see that third grade had such high growth this time. This is the first time we've been able to see it at more than one school, because the prep program's only been at ANJ in the past, and now it's spread to 3 of our 4 third grade buildings.
We looked at it by school and also by race ethnicity. And then we look at proficiency. Again, strong start, but we definitely need to make some shifts in our math strategy. We have been doing a really intensive focus on reading and literacy, and we are now exploring interventions in math, what needs to happen in teaching practice as well. Question? Great. Math proficiency by school is here. And here's our summary. We're continuing to increase proficiency percentages on NWEA MAP compared to last year. We have a 4% increase in reading and a 3% increase in math. We see an increase, but we need a transformational increase. And so this tells us that, yes, you're getting annual growth, but we need catch-up growth. And so what are the additional strategies we can employ to actually get more students to achieve our goals? Looking forward, our schools are going to plan for acceleration. That's what this data tells us. Are there any questions about that? So you want to talk about next steps?
Sure. So right now we are revising the curriculum for K-5 for literacy program adoption. That process kind of started last year and we're moving through that. There's been some teams coming in to look at different programs that can be used here at Battle Creek, and the team will make a decision. We're focused on the implementation of evidence-based instructional routines in literacy for K-5 and focusing on the implementation of disciplinary literacy, which I talked about. There's been some ongoing professional development, and that gets coupled with some instructional coaches and principals going in to support, to see where teachers are and what additional support they need. We're auditing our intervention materials and allocating consistent evidence programs, seeing what really works, and based on this data, what do our students need to move forward in academic achievement, and training instructional coaches on the science of reading and effective reading practices. We were very, it was beneficial to be able to really bring all of the instructional coaches back, and they consistently get professional development so they can support teachers in the schools.
Before you keep going,
sorry.
what do we mean by evidence-based instructional routines? Like what does that mean?
Sure. Yeah, so evidence-based instructional routines are essentially The practices that have qualitative research that shows that, and quantitative research, it shows that evidence shows that these practices have been effective in schools. So what we're looking at is not just trying to focus on what the new popular trend is in teaching, but finding what are the things that we know work and that research says works and implementing those effectively. So that is a lot of the work that we're doing. So for example, the K2 instructional routines I mentioned earlier, that is a set of routines that when teachers are doing phonics and phonemic awareness instruction, every day they have the same steps. Like on Monday, it's these 4 routines. On Tuesday, it's these 4 routines. And those are based on evidence that has been collected around national research from authors and different studies. So finding what works.
It's like national, it's not specific or unique to the district, but the makeup of like our unique districts, for example, or urban districts or rural, like, is it just a broad overview of all school districts, or is it tailored to certain ones?
It's what's been found to be effective in high poverty, high minority districts. That's what it would be.
Yeah, it's both.
So it's, yeah.
Typically,
So-
what we find is what works nationally is a lot of the same things that work in our urban school settings.
But for a specific population.
Yes.
Right? So we aren't just trying to pull what works in Portage because that might not work in Battle
Right.
Creek. We're looking at very intentional instructional routines for students who are several years behind, need culturally responsive pedagogy, that kind of thing.
And that's what we're talking about with the intervention materials too. Because right now, we don't have consistency even across our own schools. So if a student needs a specific intervention, if they're struggling in comprehension in 3rd grade, we're trying to get it consistent so that we have access to the right interventions and materials across all of our buildings.
Defining is what we say is we're defining the loose and tight. What is the loose where principals can make decisions, and what's the tight where this is tight, you have to follow these routines. Investing in math.
So I can do that. So investing in effective math instruction. So training principals and instructional coaches to support effective K-5 math instructions through essential component training. We've looked at a couple of different things. One is bringing in coaches from some of our math programs. So we're investigating that right now. But we want to make sure that our building leaders and our coaches aren't just focused only on literacy, because we know that there are very specific things that you can do to be effective at math instruction. And we want to make sure that we're looking for all of those things. We're looking at tailoring our professional learning to address the needs of our 6-12 math teachers. Typically, well, this year, our math teachers have been joining all content area teachers in disciplinary literacy training. So what we're looking at is trying to get some very specific math training for our math teachers. And then middle school teacher team to attend the Connected Math Summer Institute. We have been looking for opportunities with that. Connected Math is our middle school math program. We've had difficulty finding trainers, but we found that there's a summer institute, so we're looking at that.
So I attended, Rise did a student survey or interview with students at Northwestern last week. And one student said something that just stuck with me. But when they asked what was something he would change, or it was something that it was either to come to school or focus or whatever, he said less substitute teachers. And so I don't know if he was referring to long-term subs or if he was referring to teacher absences. I don't know, but it really stuck out to me. And it looks like the middle school, when we talk about math, seems to be most at risk. So I know we're really trying hard with teachers being certified and recruiting, but I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Yes, so at Northwestern, absolutely. So right now at Northwestern, they are actually both the long-term subs. They were long-term subs for both math classes. And so one is actually doing the math 180 and the other one's doing 7th and 8th. And we actually have a person who's working directly with both of those teachers to ensure that they're able to provide the appropriate instruction, like directly.
But to be clear, that wasn't a vacancy. It's because the teacher is out sick
Yes,
on leave.
yes.
So it's not, you can't just hire somebody
Yes.
back in. It's actually someone out on leave. So,
Thank you for that.
but good. And we do have a section in here where we'll talk about our recruitment and retention strategy where more details can be given. So we also are increasing. So what did the data tell us basically is what, so what I saw in the data and the data is more encompassing than just looking at the numbers on assessments. It's also the conversations we're having in schools and my student advisory councils, which are most telling when you hear from students. And so we need more professional learning on culturally relevant teaching practices, which speaks to how do you make the lesson and the instructional routine relevant for other cultures when the dominant culture is the majority of our staff. So we're going to start with our middle schools where it is most prevalent. And I am working to bring in an individual that's going to do some surveying, which will highlight the student experience and then provide them with training on how to shift the student experience based on culturally relevant pedagogy. That's an urgent need that has come across in the data, which you also see in the behavior data and increased suspensions for our students of color. Those two things go hand in hand. Additionally, SIOP training for multilingual learners and conducting a K-12 curriculum inventory to understand where our areas of improvement lie. Questions before we move into student supports?
I guess I would ask such a difference in the achievement levels of reading and math. And I realize math is not a favorite subject of anybody at times, but there are some students that are just really able to handle math. I just wonder if, because we adopt a math curriculum in the last 10 years? Has that been used with fidelity, I think, consistency to make sure those resources from that math program are getting to the students?
So earlier when I was talking about the coaches coming in, that is from Math Expressions. We've been in talks with them about bringing back some of the coaches from the program itself to
Good.
walk alongside our instructional coaches and principals to
Mhm.
make sure that we are implementing with fidelity.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Because what we've noticed in the data, which will come up maybe later, is the number of new teachers we have. So the ability to teach high quality math instruction, and the majority of our teachers are either transitional teachers who have not had any formal education or they're new to the profession. You
Mhm.
put that together and they're struggling to teach math at a level that we need. So our response to that is to bring back the curriculum leaders to support them and also to develop some training for the summer.
Well, sure. I think that's great. And I also wondered too, you mentioned the Western Michigan person that's been just helping elementary students. Does that program continue on to middle school support?
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's the design of it is for elementary.
Okay.
I'd love to learn, what are we learning from that could inform our middle school?
Mhm.
So we're actually, Dr. Shin, who has been with us for a long time. I'd love to take that question back to him and see if there is a design for a
sure.
middle school program. That's a good question.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, instructional team. And up next, yeah, student support. We might have you like just take the mic and stand to the. With you. So in terms of student support, you want to go over your key celebrations?
Yes, so some of our key celebrations are Although a slight decrease, we did see a decrease in the number of chronically absent students from year to year. So over last year to this year, we did see a 7% approximate decrease. There are a few schools that we acknowledge for having double-digit decreases in chronic absenteeism students. And again, that means a student who has missed 10% or more of the eligible days or the days that we've been in school. And those schools are Lemoore Park, Springfield Middle, and Verona and Valley View. Saw double-digit decreases from last year to this school year. More than 65, and this is non-support staff, more than 65 non-support staff members were trained in CPI de-escalation techniques. And why that's the celebration is because support staff have to be trained in it. It's required, it's mandatory for them. And so this number is well above 100 staff members across the district. But the 65 is a celebration because it was staff members who opted in for a training that we had this summer to actually come and sit through CPI de-escalation, even though it wasn't within their required training. So that is why that's a celebration there. Key communicators, attendance grew approximately 25 additional parents, community members and staff, and we had more than 30 families who participated over 2 laundry days, one before the Christmas break and one the weekend of Super Bowl, actually, on Super Bowl, on Super Bowl. So here is the look at the incremental progresses over the month from last year to this year. Again, you'll see those slight decreases over last year's from December to January to this year, December to January. Office discipline referrals, and what that means is the time that at any time that a student is receiving behavior management outside of the classroom. So it's not teacher managed, they get what's called an ODR or office discipline referral. And here you'll see the numbers from year to year. Again, just some slight decreases in December and January, but still some decreases. We did see a few more students receive ODRs in November of this year, though. And then you have that overall look by grade here. And then you have race and ethnicity breakdown month over month. ODRs total by school through January of this school year.
So I have a question related to the race and ethnicity. This is just raw numbers, right? It's not percentage based on like.
These are the actual numbers. Yeah. So
Okay.
they're not percents. Those are numbers of students.
I have a question.
I'm sorry, numbers of referrals, not of students, because this is occurrences and it's not by student.
So one student could have multiple.
They could,
referrals.
yeah,
I have a question.
yes.
What are we doing with the chronic absence?
So what we're doing in terms of,
Are they being reported to the social worker or what's the process?
the progressive.
Yeah.
So where we start at is first looking at average daily attendance. So students who are not in school, starting from day one, begin to receive telephone calls. And those are normally coming from your teachers or your classroom staff. Once you reach a certain level, 5 or more days, then you start to get attendance letters. You start to get calls from other personnel within the school. Once you start to reach beyond 10 and 15 and more days like that, everything else still continues, but you're escalated to home visits, to district level staff making contact with you, to truancy officer within Calhoun County being a part of the meetings with the school and the family as well. So it's progressive based on where they're at in the process. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have any data related to like, if there's a certain time or days where absenteeism increases across the board? So for example, I'll hear parents say, I'm not gonna bother to come on a half a day because it's 3 hours, it's too much effort. So do we have anything that really gives us trends around, is the calendar impacting or contributing to this?
We have some data around the particular days, and I will have to say that yes, on half days, we do have some families who opt out. Not really to the degree. That's a lot different than opting out on other days. But yes, half days, we do see a more lower percentage for that average daily attendance for students attending. Yeah. And I do know that because we have to keep track of that because we have to meet a certain level every single day to meet the state requirements. We've been able to at least sustain the state requirements every single day across the district, although there are some days where some buildings are not hitting that.
So people think that that's a really big issue, but the bigger issue is parents just opting out or barriers.
Yeah.
The half days, we do look at that.
We do.
But it hasn't been large enough for us to actually make a change. It's
Nope.
more about, do you, on any day,
Yeah.
send your kid to school? So what's your next steps, your team?
Next steps are communication. So communication internally and externally. So internal communication looks like when I go into a school, I see attendance being talked about. I see attendance walls. I see boards that acknowledge attendance. I see communication with staff and parents and students about this is what attendance looks like in our building. Next steps are also increasing the contacts that we have with parents. So if we've gone to home visits, then we go on another home visit. And maybe next time we have a liaison officer with us, or we have somebody else from the community, which is what we're hoping. So you got a friendly voice and a friendly face that you're used to that now is going to start supporting your attendance efforts and making sure that families have what they need as well. So we did reach out to a lot of our faith-based, what Dr. Carter did to our faith-based organizations, and Mr. Hunt is providing them with a toolkit. So they are also going to work with the district for the families that they service at their programs or even at their church services and speak to them about attendance and what it looks like when your child is missing these many days and these many hours, because what we've learned is that sometimes we believe, oh, they just missed this day, or they just missed 3 days, but then they missed 3 days again in another month and 5 days because they were sick, and those things start to add up and they start to impact the instruction or the academic success of kids who were even academically successful when their attendance was successful. Retraining and re-implementation of attendance home visits. And what we mean by that is we've also found that we need to make sure that people know how to do empathy interviews and know how to ask the right questions or see the right things when they're at a home visit so that they understand what their next step should be with those individual students and families. Intentional training and retraining around trauma-informed and best practices, and that's for culture and climate. So if we get the kids here, we want to keep them here. We want them to feel like they belong here and they're welcome here and they want to stay here. So that's the purpose of doing that within the buildings.
Do we have any more plans around like incentivizing attendance or good attendance, perfect attendance? I remember in December, something went out about if you have perfect attendance, you get entered into a raffle. I don't know that I've heard anything since that.
Yep. So that Mr. Hunt spearheaded that program, and what we're trying to do now is just think of some things that aren't these small things that families and students are getting, and not these really large things where we're kind of like on the two ends of the spectrum with that, but some things that are in the middle. So we're looking at game tickets and family night outs and things like that. So just some things that are more intentional for families instead of like the bag of hot Cheetos that they get or picking out of a prize box, but something that's just a little bit more somewhere in the middle, but it's more rah. If I actually win this and I'll attend and I'll get these items. So we're still really thinking creatively about that and trying to find more innovative incentives. Sorry,
I know we are thinking of big, like you said. However, I wondered if it would be worth a try, like to pilot to see if something big could have transformational impacts. I want to say it was Detroit, and I don't remember if it was attendance or something, but they incentivized with a concert.
Yep.
And it could just be worth a shot. Right?
Everything has been on the table, Dr. Johnson. No, everything. We've heard it all and are just at this point exploring what is in our capacity to do and what can we do on a large scale. Because if we think about it, one family could get a television, but maybe 50 families get a night out to a game or something like that. So we're trying to figure out what's the biggest impact for what the incentive is going to be.
recently, Monique, Miss Cheeks came to me and said, can I get a bus and take everybody to the Pistons game?
I'm still working on that one.
And I said, are you sure it's a Pistons?
Right.
I was like, "Who they
But that's
playing?"
good for us cost wise.
So, I say that to say they are trying to think large and big
Yeah.
and what's the capacity. But I also want to really highlight that this is where we need community support, right?
Absolutely.
Because I truly believe that Monique's team and even the building teams are doing everything they can to shift. And what we heard at our key communicators meeting, we heard directly from some families like, I worked third shift and I overslept and I just couldn't get up. And so what we want our community to say is, but we need kids to get there. What help do you need? Right? That it shouldn't be that I just couldn't get up or I was tired.
Right.
Your kids have to get to school every
Yes.
day.
Yes.
And so I think that's big. And I love that I'm already seeing some of our local faith leaders
Mhm.
posting on social media. Every day counts, make sure your kids in school. And so that's how we're trying to enlist them.
Yes.
But we are throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall.
Yep.
and
Everything.
Everything.
Everything. And if anything else,
Perfect
is-
attendance,
Yep.
giving out bikes at school.
Improved attendance. You attended 1 out of 4 when you used to attend a 0 out of 4. That's a stretch, but you know, I'm just saying, like, just not just you've been here all the time and perfect because that takes a lot of people out the running. So we got to look at improved attendance too. Like you struggle, but you're back on track.
So you said something that made me think with the start times of like the high school, it started like 7:30. Has the school district thought about, or have we thought about adjusting times that we're in school?
We looked at that temporarily one time and it has to do with our busing. We have tiers of busing, so we already don't have enough buses to consider. But we have thought about that, but we're not positioned to actually implement that yet. We don't have the resources, so. I hear that from and the second thing, thank you for saying that trigger is athletics. So if they go later, then it really impacts athletics. I think that more than the busing was actually the thing that killed it.
And after school programming in general
Yeah.
is impacted the later the day.
And we also follow the Math Science Center schedule in the Career Center.
Yes,
Been
there are just
sharing
so
those
many
programs.
competing things that go into this. And we don't operate alone, so yeah.
Right.
We did consider it because the high schoolers would love to come
Later.
Love it, yes. All right,
I've-
thank you.
Oh, that's it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, how are the incentive programs sensitive to like true medical needs for kids that they're missing days because they have like a medical need to do so? Are they like automatically out of like the running for perfect attendance because they had to miss a day for a specialist appointment or
That's a good-
surgery?
That's a good point. So perfect attendance, yes, but not improved attendance, not this is what we're doing this week, not and then also we have interventions for students that comes up as an issue. So they're still able to maybe receive education or attendance through virtual learning or some other type of innovative way that we're able to still get them educated. So then that attendance doesn't always get impacted when we have barriers like that. So we have care plans that nurses are helping to create. So sometimes that doesn't always get them out of the running for what's perceived as an improved attendance. And we know once we do their check-ins, what their reasonings are.
Okay.
That answer that?
Yeah, so it sounds like there's some, conversations
Other
they had,
considerations, yeah.
to get in there and
Yeah.
make that up or whatever.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
And it didn't show up in this report, but every school has an attendance team.
Every single school. Yep. So they know while you guys can see numbers, they know who those kids are in those numbers and what their barrier is. Oh, this is medical or this is daycare or things like that.
So I had another question. I'm sorry before you walk off.
Okay.
So the ODRs number that we have in here, how do we make sure that the drop isn't just because I'm not going to issue it because we don't want to have this metric. This is a negative metric. Like, are we getting at the underlying behavior? versus trying to eliminate the statistic?
Very excited that you asked that question. So our mantra is that we look at interventions and the level and the extent to which we're intervening versus, yes, we have to show ODRs and a decrease there, but we look more at how are we intervening? How often are we intervening? What interventions are we using? That way we don't miss those children, or we don't miss somebody who's saying, well, I'm just not going to put this in, because those behaviors are going to continue to bubble if you're not intervening. So we look at interventions along as indicators to decrease in the ODRs and OSSs.
Okay, and I will say, this is just a comment. I don't like that metric on our, as that being a metric. I think that can lead to bad things. And I'm glad to hear you say that that is not a driver. It looked like we had an uptick or a higher amount in the high school. Have we thought about like hiring a dedicated staff member or role that focuses on discipline, whether that be at the district level or even at that specific location?
So I would say that at the high school, you have Bearcat coaches that will hold caseloads. You have more Bearcat coaches there than what are, of course, at other buildings because of the sheer numbers. You have a dean there that's not necessarily going to focus on suspensions, but it's going to focus on climate and culture interventions and things like that. You have 3 behavior interventionists there as well. So yes, they are being provided with those additional supports because we understand what's happening at that level. And then they have many more students than what's across the district as well. And then also what I wanted to point out was that there was kind of an uptick in January. And so we expect to see a decline again because after Christmas break, we're reteaching, relearning, and we're going through all of that all over again. And then we start to see a decline again too.
But are the people who you just mentioned there, are they feeling that they are adequately supplied to do that? Or do we need to look at, is there a need for a more focused role for that?
So what we do is we offer them consistent training. And so they have the opportunity to even do work sessions. So I have a student or a group of students, or my caseload is experiencing this, and they work together about how they can solve those types of issues. So they could receive consistent training at least 2 to 3 times a month that's specifically focused on those support groups that are helping with behaviors.
But I think the answer to this, and let's be real about it, is that all of those people feel like they have enough, but what they're saying is, why are kids constantly being kicked out of school, out of class? Yes. And so what we have determined is the culturally relevant pedagogy, because these ODRs are high because it's the number of times that a teacher has decided they don't want to deal with you. Let's be real about that. And it could be something simple as, you didn't put your phone down because I asked you. You didn't, wouldn't wake up. You had your head down on that. All of that is in here. And so our response to this isn't about violent behaviors. That's not, that would be in your OSSs. This is about the number of times I got on your nerves and you decided to put me out of class.
So that it goes to my question. Can we get, and maybe we could start to collect it. I would like to see some of the things within the increases. So so to look at, was this related to attitude? Was this related to the phone? Was this related? Because I think that would be helpful for us to see.
Yeah, so we actually just talked about that just a few hours ago in one of our meetings that we were going to be breaking down. So I will look at that, but what's going to happen now is I'm going to be sharing that with the executive leadership. What are the actual behaviors that we're seeing for not just OSS, but ODRs as well?
That would be good.
Absolutely.
Because that's in our data. We look at it, but we didn't put it in this report, which we can't. So it'll say things like truancy is really, really high for ODRs. And what truancy can include is, I walked out of class, right? But then why are you walking out of class, right? So we're trying to do the root cause of ODRs aren't just because kids are acting up all the time. Now, some of them are, don't get me wrong, but there's also some in here. We saw high levels of truancy, disrespect is an ODR. And what was the other really high one? It was ODR. Truancy, disrespect.
Mainly disrespect and truancy.
Not following
directions, which is kind of the same thing as truancy and disrespect. Because if I leave or if I say something that you asked me not to do, not to say, or if I do something like a phone, so those 3 come alarming for ODRs.
So that would be a threat also. You could see what.
Absolutely, yes.
And the ones who are doing well. So if you follow students around, And you notice this student has a different experience here and there, right? Like we can
Yep.
even study some of those.
Some positives as well,
Mhm.
those that were doing it well.
Mhm.
And this past meeting of my high school student advisory, I decided to record them. And I have like 11 clips of their experience, which then I gave to the high school, leadership team for them to hear from students. This is how they're experiencing it. And what I heard from them was, why am I being kicked out of class for this, what they believe is not a real, thing. But I say all that to say then they were going to share those with staff so that they can really talk about this is how kids are experiencing Battle Creek Central High School right now. So it was very eye-opening for me to review those clips again and hearing the voice of students, how they're experiencing. And one of the things they did say on the flip side of that is we're not doing enough celebrations around here. Why don't we talk about the basketball team and announcements? So, sharing the positives and making school a place you want to come, as well as the other things that we need to be hard. And I just thought, that's a good point. Let's go.
Do we get the flip side to see the staff or the teachers, how they experience it as well? Because it seems like there could be a fine line between maybe that is disruptive if I'm having to deal with that daily. So are we making sure we're getting the other side of that as well?
The building leaders do.
Okay.
The building leaders do, and then they have opportunities to talk with us through the survey as well as the listening tours, right? But I don't know. I haven't heard that feedback, but I think that's the other thing. Next year, we're going to do more engagement surveys because we want to give them anonymous opportunities to tell us what we're missing.
Right.
Yeah. Good, good discussion.
Good for me.
Are you off the hot seat?
I think so.
Well, we'll replace you with Miss Alexis Smalls, accompanied by Dr. Henry. Let's go. Recruitment and retention.
First day on the job.
Right.
You shouldn't expect a whole lot, right?
I'm just gonna take this out.
Yeah, just pull. So.
So we have had, you can see nearly 75 classroom hires to date for this school year. We are looking at a 90% retention rate for this year. At the end of last school year, it was 70%. Of the staff that was surveyed, we're excited about the fact that 89% of them are proud to work for BCPS. And we have recently filled 3 crucial administrative roles. Our Senior Executive Director of District Operations, Mr. Hayden, our Director of Grants, State, Federal Programs, and Adult Education, Mr. Fowler, and our Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations, Dr. Henry.
Good work.
Next.
I'm not going to read through all of these. I'm just going to highlight. We've already talked about how 89% of our staff are proud to work for Battle Creek Public Schools. 95% felt that their tech issues were resolved in a friendly manner. One of the areas where we are working on is our building cleanliness. Just a few housing incentive updates. I will say that even though I missed it based on, even though I missed it, I'm still excited about the housing incentive that we offer. And for me, in recruiting for Battle Creek Public Schools, it's something very exciting. I had an opportunity to talk about it this past weekend, and the response I got was, "Oh, y'all do that?" So I think this is something really exciting that we all need to be talking about as a part of our district. I'm not going to read through all the numbers. You can see them there. Oh, okay. So Dr. Henry said that drove him to come, see? So he's not in these numbers because he just got here, but he has benefited from our housing incentive.
It helped with the recruitment. Okay.
It did. So some of our opportunities right now. So it has already been mentioned when we looked at some of our other data, but nearly 30% of our teachers are new teachers, basically. And so that is one of our opportunities. Also, the lack of diversity in our teachers. It's no secret that our teacher population doesn't match our student population. And then also, as we look at our survey response rates, only 39% response rate, which is consistent with what we see in engagement surveys, but it's not good. We would prefer to see 60 to 70% response rates. So a 30% response rate is sort of a response. So that's one way to look at that. And out of our survey responses, 37% of them were teachers. I'll pause for questions because I'm moving. Any questions at this point?
I would just ask to get adults to respond to a survey. Do we have to incentivize? And they'll have a better turnout with their survey thoughts?
I certainly think that that is an idea. I also think that one of the things you also have to do is give a deadline so people know when the survey is expected. As Dr. Carter already mentioned, we will be going to another engagement survey vendor that we will use. We have been administering that survey ourselves, but our plan is to move to a vendor for that. So hopefully that will help as well.
Sure.
Okay, so we already talked about Upbeat. So that's the exit survey process that's mentioned there. The other thing that we're going to be doing is attending diverse educator recruitment events to help with recruiting more diverse staff. I actually this past weekend was in Cincinnati for the Midwest Black Male Educator Summit. So that was a great experience. Because that was a summit full of Black male educators. And so they did a lot of, I forget the word I'm looking for, a lot of workshops and presented a lot of data. I had an opportunity to talk to some folks. So we'll be attending things like that. Dr. Henry and I are planning to attend a career fair at FAMU. We're planning to attend a career fair, Ms. Cheeks and I at Howard. And then we're also still going to be attending career fairs at our local Michigan universities as well. But we're excited about that initiative. We're also planning for more recognition and reward opportunities. Right now, a coworker and I have been going out to our schools and acknowledging our staff anniversaries. And for the most part, that has been positively received. Of course, when you see your peers being recognized for 10, 15, 20 years of service, others want to stand in their shoes. So I think that's been exciting. And so we're going to formalize that process. And then finally, as we look toward our spring recruitment season, we will be doing digital ads on LinkedIn, Google, and connected TV. And so, you know, when you watch TV and the ads pop up, so we're going to be on there, y'all.
If I may add, seeing that this is my first day today, I have a host of other next step initiatives. So I had a conversation with the superintendent earlier, and I'm coming from a district where our initiative was to hire 1,000 Black and brown males by 2025. And so with that comes a host of things to make that happen. And so I have a host of next steps, but I have to vet it with the stakeholders first, because something I learned a long time ago, things that may work on the north side of town may not work on the south side of town. And so some of the things that might work in Florida may not, and I have shared with the staff that now there's something, all these ideas I have, if they don't work, y'all don't talk behind my back, just let me know. Out here, I don't think that's really gonna work. But it may work if we tweak it and the like. So we're going through that process, because I could add probably 10 other next steps on this slide, but I want to vet it with my bosses first.
Any questions?
Any questions about recruitment retention?
Doing a good job.
Thank you all for your support.
Bearcat Advantage, Dr. Harvey in the house.
All right.
Are you
on, Dr. Harvey?
We're setting up board meeting. All right.
Bearcat Advantage. So obviously, you know, we're super excited about recruiting our students to apply for the Advantage so that they can access the gift of college tuition fees paid for at any Michigan university of their choice, and also to include our HBCUs. And so here's the by the numbers. So you can see what we're on track of doing now and what our hard deadlines are. I will say the coordinator of the Bearcat Advantage takes this role very seriously. So much so, she moved her office to be in the high school so that she has a touch point with seniors daily. And so there is an intentionality around going to their classes, capstones, lunches. Certain teachers are allowing her time and space to come into classrooms so that our students do not miss any timelines or deadlines in preparation for post-secondary education. So you can see that seniors are submitting applications for not only the Bearcat Advantage, but also for Legacy Scholars, because our goal is for every senior to have a post-secondary plan, 100%. So whether they choose college, 4-year, 2-year, go straight into the workforce and or military, they will have a plan and we will have it documented so that they leave us prepared.
Dr. Harvey, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Is there something, I don't remember what Legacy Scholars is, but is there something to support like trade school?
Yes.
attendance?
So the Legacy Scholarship currently supports the fees and tuition for 2-year trade schools and vocational tech.
This isn't a bad thing, but 99 seniors, so we have more seniors who've applied for Legacy than Bearcat Advantage, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so not negative, but what do you make of that?
I don't know. Honestly, I want to understand more about why they're choosing this route versus a different route. It also may be because I am a recipient of a 2-year start college, and then I transferred to a 4-year university. And so some of our students may want to have that readiness factor of staying close to home, making sure that they're ready to enter into a 4-year university. I'm not certain. So that was one of the things that we're going to dig deeper into to understand why this route versus a different route.
And then what was our target for Bearcat Advantage? So we have 32.
That was
attended.
last year's, right?
Yes,
Not
that
this
the first
year.
number is last year.
Okay.
So currently there are 27 who have submitted
Their
applications and then 99 for Legacy Scholars.
Okay.
And so our total graduating class on record is 184. So we still have work to do.
Dr. Hart. Sorry to interrupt, but I believe some of that number is the issues that have been having with the FAFSA. So the
That's
new
what I was
FAFSA
gonna
for
ask.
this year has slowed down the process for all college applicants, not just our Bearcat.
So for those who could not hear in our viewing audience, some of the delay in application submittal has been due to the changes of FAFSA. And so we are having many FAFSA nights at the high school. There's been some virtual options as well as in-person options, trying to work through all of that information. I will say a lot of that information came late, so it rushed our planning efforts. So next steps, we will continue to advertise and bring awareness to this dynamic gift, I should say, out of the kindness of the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. We are able to offer this scholarship. We'll continue to work with seniors. And when I mean we're going to hit our deadline, we will hit our deadline. You will see data at the end of the year that 100% of our students have made a selection and will have a plan. And then also continue to collaborate with community partners. We have a lot of people in this work with us, and so we'll just keep leveraging those partnerships to help us reach our goal.
Dr. Harvey, as we keep working through, so that I know we're in year 1 of this, are we making plans to have statistics around retention? So people are going, but are they staying? If they're not, what are their struggles? Like doing pulse checks with our students?
So, man, there's so much I can share about that. So our external evaluators have that already on their radar.
Okay.
The Upjohn Institute is being or providing evaluation services, and they too have an extensive history with Promise scholarships. They not only worked with Kalamazoo, in their promised world, but across the nation. It's not just Michigan schools. And so they have that on their radar of what the evaluation process should look like in order to communicate what's working, what's not working. And it's not just about access, but it's also about completion, right? The other thing is, it was two things I wanted to share. It was the external evaluators, and I forgot the other piece.
Something internal, maybe? I don't know.
Probably.
When you think of it, let me know. Thank you.
Sure will.
Thank you.
Innovation centers. So, some exciting news and key celebrations. Our students are choosing us and they're staying with us. 97% of students who are at Fremont and BC STEM plan to return the following year. And I don't know if you remember or have the historical context, but that wasn't always our story. Some of our students would leave at mass exodus. So this is exciting news. Also, to celebrate, BC STEM students earning certificates in a partnership with Access Vision. And I got to tell you, the kids were very excited to get that hands-on learning, but not only that, but to have something documenting their success in their work of celebration and completion. And as you notice, the picture on the slide is very intentional because that is one of the students that was in training and being present at the Quiz Bowl filming. We are super excited about the certification for CTE programming at the high school. One of the things we want to accelerate is our students getting certificates in the pathways that we have designed through career academies. This gets us one step closer for our students to take the necessary tests and certifications to do it in our facilities and not having to go to any other partnering facility. We are also celebrating the Be It Academy as they re-image and reopen the Roar store. And so that is going to be supported by staff and students and ran to not only give us that Bearcat gear that so many people need and want and desire, but also to help funnel some of the revenue back to the students directly.
And quick comment before you flip off of that, that's my nephew. And he had a certificate. You guys didn't know that. I don't think they knew that. But he had his certificate read at church. He was very proud of it, and he might get an internship. So it is a great, exciting program.
Thank you.
Christian Collins background up on the picture, so.
Right.
Also exciting news. One of the things and goals of the innovation centers when they opened was not only to attract enrollment, but to sustain enrollment, but to attract new enrollment. And so you can see the trending line of students who are coming to BCPS that are not of BCPS, meaning we are attracting students from throughout the greater Battle Creek area. So Fremont, you see an incline up to 19%. BC STEM, you see
Okay.
an increase to 11%. So we are attracting new enrollment. Battle Creek, this is actually Battle Creek Central. And so you can see the trend over time of the enrollment. So we took a slight dip, but I wanted it to be noted that we are looking at enrollment at every center to gauge whether or not our marketing, our communication, are we telling our story in a way that is being attractive to families in our own community as well as the greater community. So with the re-imaging, with the certifications at the high school, I'm sure that we'll see those numbers increase. So Northwestern updates. I'm pretty sure everybody wants to know, where are we with the visual performing arts, excuse me, with the new Northwestern Academy of Visual and Performing Arts. Thank you for the renaming. We are on track. At the end of this school year, you will have before you a programmatic guide of what this program is going to look like, a framework for arts integration, a staffing model, and a professional development plan for staff. So those are the 4 deliverables we're working on before the end of the year so that people can put meat to the skeleton of what the experience is going to be designed for. Currently, though, one of our readiness strategies was to get students and staff ready for this new way of learning. And with that, we are using the PERTS Elevate professional learning tool to help us understand what experiences are valued by students. And so I don't know the cadence of it, I should. Students take a survey to communicate how they're experiencing school. Teachers review that data and make the practice and programmatic shifts so that they are responsive to student voice. That was the first pillar we needed to establish, is we have to create with our students and not just do things to our students. So we have this framework to help us build that muscle, and we're going through that process right now, and it will continue on to help us inform decisions. The other thing that is exciting is the Arts Community Council. So many community members want to understand, how do I get involved? Where does my voice come into play? Well, we're establishing an Arts Council for Northwestern to help us with the community aspect of what should be present as far as student experiences. So really wanted to focus on the cultural relevancy of what Battle Creek has to offer, and then also help us build out beyond that. So there will be Battle Creek members on that council helping us to inform those experiences.
Are you gonna have that just open or is there like, are you gonna just select people or how do people get on that council? Do you have you decided that yet?
That's a great question. Right now it's open because I just want voices at the table. But when it becomes overwhelming, we probably will design what that looks like, terms, seats, and that type of thing. But at this point, it's really open to those who want to participate.
And how do they raise their hand to get on that? What's the best way to get?
You can contact Dr. Anita Harvey at aharvey-Battle Creek. Yes, at battlecreekpublicschools.org. Just Google me, send me an email. Anything else with Northwestern?
Could you explain, you mentioned the Parent Family Advisory Council. I had a parent from Valley View say, what is going on? Do you know about this Parent Family Advisory Council? And I said, yeah, but I want, when I saw this on the next steps or update, I said, oh, it's coming and it's new.
Mm-hmm. So the equivalent of the Arts Community Council, we definitely want to have a Parent Family Council. So we want to make sure that not only student voice is included in the design, but also the parent family voice. What are they expecting? What are they wanting to see? What are some things that they don't want to see? Because we can learn from those experiences as well. And because it's a K-8 school, I really want parents to understand that this is a model that we use across the state and across the nation. And I know there may be some families who have some hesitancy. So I want them at the table to co-design with us so that they can understand that this is a model that is welcomed and is very progressive and productive.
Thank you.
Springfield. Okay, Springfield. I hate that I'm running out of gas because all of these things are like amazing, but I'm just belting y'all. Okay, Springfield Middle School. So we know that Springfield is a candidate school, which is awesome because what that means is we have access to design for IB curriculum. We have a consultant, we have a coach. And so now what we're really doing is learning. We're learning the model. We're learning what's different about the IB framework versus the traditional framework. We're going through the professional developments. In fact, all of their PLCs are learning sessions around what are we currently teaching, and then what does IB say we should be doing? And let's start to make notes. So they're going through a note-taking process so that this summer, they're going to go through some curriculum writing and start to develop their first unit to teach grades 6, 7, and 8. At first, we thought we wanted a progressive approach, but we want to actually test it at all 3 grade levels. And so there's a lot of summer learning happening that also involves a lot of curriculum writing that's coming later. The other thing that's obviously different about Springfield is, and for my Fremont parents, I know you guys already know about the learner profile attributes, but with IB, it's really about those characters and those mindsets that help create global-minded citizens. Those are the same that they experience in the other IB model. And so what Springfield is doing is matching how can we create experiences so that our kids see these throughout the day and not just taught in isolation. So that is the current work that you can experience in addition to the service learning projects. Our goal is for every student to experience 3 service learning projects. And right now we're on track to do and meet that goal. Next steps. Fremont and BC STEM applications are open now into April 5th. I will say this, because kids are not leaving, spots are not readily available.
Good.
So you have to get in at kindergarten to secure your spot. So you stay with us from K-5. So please don't get upset when you're on a wait list, because we may not have a 3rd grade spot because our families are choosing us and staying with us. Northwestern is on track for transformation as we continue to build out our councils. We're excited about what's happening in the Be It Academy. We're trying to re-image the experience to parallel with the Health and Human Services. So many of you know the Health and Human Services has a simulation lab. Well, we want the same parallel experience for the Be It students. So they came up with some ideas. We're talking to our council, and we're really looking to design, I don't even know if I should say it, but we're looking to design an experience that is comparable. I'll just say that.
Okay. I fell asleep for a moment.
Listen. And the last leg of the district transformation department. Actually, this is great news, because here's the thing about 21st century. 21st century is an extension of the learning day, but done a little bit differently. What we don't want is, and I'm gonna just name it, it's not babysitting, because there are 2 pillars of 21st century that we have to design for. It's academic and enrichment. And what we're doing is integrating those both. How do you learn differently through fun experiences? How do you learn in a way that when you go back to the day program, you see the impact in reading, you see the impact in math, because it was taught in a different way. So what we're excited about is enrollment is up, because we are fully staffed. Last year and the year before, it was hard. We had site coordinators leaving. We had youth development workers leaving. Now we're fully staffed, so now we can vision a program that is going to be successful. 9 out of 10 sites are meeting their enrollment goals. So we are really, and what that means is not only their enrollment goals, but their attendance goals as well, because they are not only enrolled in program, but they are coming to program. What questions do you have about 21st century? Thank you.
It looks like they're happy.
Facilities.
As you can see, we're moving right along with the facility projects. They're moving along. Fremont, Dudley, we got, you guys signed off on them last board meeting, so we're moving right along with them. We're working with the HVAC projects on there. And again, I'm so happy when I came in that although our buildings are older, they're in great shape. And that goes to test to Dr. Carter and you board members to make sure that we put the money in the buildings to make sure they stay up and, you know, they are attractive to what we do here in the district.
So most important is that Northwestern K-5 Wing and Welcome Center. They will be moving in spring break.
Yes.
Spring break.
Yes.
So
the
what's
teachers have boxes and they're going in. Here's the upcoming one we have, the big one, we just, started. We'll be starting with the Northwestern as well as the, Creek Central. That's a big one because they're going to be redoing the bottom of the pool and the whole shot on that one. And, they're going to be working on that as well as the HVAC on, Ann J and Verona. I'm learning the schools here and, getting those together as well as that continued bond works. We have a number of ESSER projects that we have to get completed and get done before, there's a timeline on them. I want to say it's this year, end of, this calendar year.
Herb, will you talk about your response to the survey data on the cleanliness of the building?
I was just about to ask that. Thank
Yep.
you.
So what we're looking at is coming in and understanding what LGC, our contracted organization, is, and understanding what their role is. And we've been meeting with them weekly. Well, what Josh and I came up with is with our survey, we're going to share with them tomorrow at our Tuesday meeting. And what they shared with us is they did a staff survey as well. And it was very telling that, without going too much into it, that the training and support they're getting is not there. And that may be what we're seeing is why we're not getting the cleanliness of what we have. We talked about putting together something very brief where the leaders of the school will be able to just give a checklist and say, on a scale of 1 to 5, how's the building looking today? And that way they'll give us some real-time data that we can track and find out what it is. Someone was in one of our high schools and they mentioned that the hallways were terrible. And then we found out that in high school, there are 3 lunches that start at 10 o'clock and get done probably about 12. So the majority of the custodial staff is there turning over the area for the lunchroom. And that lunch area and that common area, that means the other areas of the building are being neglected. So we're going to ask them to work on their staffing model to help to get more in. To the defense of what LGC gives us, they are having the trend of hiring is what's going across the nation. They're having a tough time getting people into those positions. One time they had 5 people come in. They went through the whole process and only 2 of them showed up at work. And that's just been a challenge that they've been having. It's been an ongoing thing. It's a hamster wheel that we're going on. So we've got to work on that and try to get that done for the next 2 more years that we're in with them.
Any other questions on facilities?
I have a question just in general. When we talk about cleanliness, is it like there's paper? So it's like we can be reinforcing pride with our students and staff of pick up the paper, or is it like there's spills or like?
I think it's a combination of both, because I spoke with somebody today and they said, well, here in the admin building, it's great. There are no kids. But again, our other buildings have kids.
Yeah.
So it is something, kids are kids. And that's one thing that we're working on. So it's a combination of pride as well as, and I really believe it's the staffing. It's a consistent staffing that they have to get a hold of. And
Thank you.
Good. All right.
Ryan, to bring up the rear.
Last and maybe least, we'll see. So a list of some pretty major projects that some of those started before I was here, but major E-rate is that funding from the government that reimburses those major projects, and you can only use them for certain things. So a lot of it was infrastructure, all the stuff that's tucked behind the walls and in the ceilings and things like that to make the internet work. And so a lot of that were those projects. Dark fiber, you might remember me bringing that to you a while back, but that was improving the internet connection that comes to the buildings. So previous to me, there was fiber between the buildings, which ensures a 10 gig connection, which is really top of the industry. So it's really, really, really good. District-wide digital signage, as you've seen, and we've enjoyed those, and got one that's out right now and giving me a little bit of problem, but we're working on it. We did complete a full district security camera assessment, technology master assessment that we're waiting on the final report for, but the assessment itself is done. Staff and student deployments, we continue to do that and look at the most relevant and best option for administrators for laptops. And so we'll get a couple more of those too, probably. The OEC, we did finally figure out a decent solution there. The guest Wi-Fi there was working, and we're hoping that that improves their ability to attract in groups that want to use that space and generate some revenue as well. So those are some major projects that we completed. What's next? We're continuing that work at Northwestern and the classroom technology, and a lot of that work is ramping up or wrapping up. And there's always those headaches. Like we had to split one of the server closets in half and rearrange them and that kind of thing as all the different crews that come in there work and sometimes work around each other and sometimes bury speakers and things like that we got to go find. So all those challenges. The boardroom AV upgrade is on schedule to happen during spring break, actually a few days before and a few days after, trying to give them a 2-week window somewhere in there. So that's really exciting, and we're moving on that. Some bigger projects and some more nebulous things are cybersecurity initiatives. So we need to enact on multi-factor authentication. SetSeg, our insurance provider, has just come this short of requiring school districts to go to multi-factor authentication, but we know that that's coming. So that provides more security just for our network. In addition to that, incident response planning. So we're working on what happens in the event that you do have some kind of issue or some kind of compromise. District security camera upgrade. We're in the process of writing out a phasing and spending plan for that. It's a massive project. It's obviously just a piece of overall security that we need to look at as a district. So that's the start or the beginning of that. And then one more addition on there is we're looking at potential changes and upgrades to the Math Science Center, their classroom technology.
Right, so we'll end with despite the challenges. And Charlie's not here to tell us, great things continue to happen in Battle Creek Public Schools.
Yeah.
Right. Any questions?
No question. I just want to say I appreciated this. It was long and a very good presentation, but I appreciated the balance between honesty and the opportunities we have and encouragement.
I appreciate the way Dr. Carter has done this differently. And she's always been the one making the report. And now she has her whole team with her. I think that's a good thing.
I don't know if
So
they
now you guys
agree.
respond. Yeah.
Well, they're still in attendance, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
No, it was a wonderful presentation, and it truly is. I've had a community member ask for details on how to get a hold of those digital signs because they really think they're remarkable. They are up to date with good information. It's not overly dated information left on our building signs, but those signs just look excellent and I think that would help with recruitment of families wanting to come to our buildings.
Big thanks to Nate for keeping the content relevant and updated. More work to do.
To repeat, they said big thanks to Nate for keeping the content updated.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Carter and your team. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. The chair will now entertain a motion to support the Teach Upbeat exit interviews.
President Poole-Gray.
Yes, Dr. Johnson.
I move to approve the Teach Upbeat exit interviews up to $14,200 from general funds in alignment with strategic goal 2.
Support.
It's been moved by Dr. Johnson, supported by Trustee LaValle, that we approve the Teach Upbeat exit interviews. Any discussion?
President Poole-Gray.
Yes, Dr. Perry.
Just the one thought for me, I have concerns just with the effectiveness of a survey going out that we've already seen that there's a lack of responsiveness with other surveys.
Okay.
So I don't know, I trust that they've done the research obviously on this, but I just wonder if that's a good use of our funding if it's not going to give us results.
We'd ask the secretary to make a note of that. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed?
No.
One opposed, motion carried. We'll move down to the MASBA Board of Directors voting. You received in your packet the candidates. So I guess tonight we'll vote. Trustee LaValle, you want to handle this one?
Well, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, we have 3 candidates. And it's one of those things where we can take a vote on each of the 3, or one of us can make a motion to elect one of those persons for this Region 6 Michigan Association School Board Director. And it's just one of those things where one motion may elect a representative and we don't have to discuss the other candidates at all. But due to the new business and a deadline to get this vote in, because we get one vote for one of these candidates. So I would just leave it open to anybody wanting to make a motion. I do have, as we all saw from Trustee Fulbright, he had casted a vote, his preference for a person. But is anyone wanting to make a motion?
We have a Robert Becker from Berry County, Pamela Dickinson from Comstock Public Schools in Kalamazoo, Elizabeth Ordell from St. Joseph County ISD, and Andrew Robinson from Berrien County. And I do believe that Pamela Dickinson is already on the board, and I think she's running for re-election.
So there's an Andrew Robinson
Yes,
for Region 6?
yes, that's what I have.
Because there was a lady from Sturgis that was mentioned for Region 6. They had sent a recommendation letter to us.
We'll have that. I just have the 4 that I just read.
Okay, in the interest of time, I will just make a motion. I will use the recommendation that Charlie gave us,
Okay.
that we will select Pamela Dickinson to be the MASB Board of Directors candidate.
Support.
It's been moved by Dr. Perry, supported by Trustee LaValle, that we nominate, well, we vote for Pamela Dickinson from Comstock Public Schools, Kalamazoo County. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, say no. Motion carried. Superintendent comments, Dr. Carter.
Thank you. I'm going to be brief because I have 16% battery. Did not plan appropriately. And so first, I just want to say thank you to the students that allowed me to participate in their Black History Month celebration at Battle Creek Central. I had a great time. I also want to send a quick shout out to all of the BCPS participants who participated in the Heritage Quiz Bowl, because that was amazing. Then remind everybody that March is Reading Month. You saw our reading. Let's read. Thank you.
Any board member comments? Trustee LaValle.
Thank you, President Poolgray. Today at the Rotary Club of Battle Creek Central High School senior, Nevaeh Miller was selected. She's a part of our Academy on Health and Human Services, quite active in sports for Battle Creek Central, and she was selected as the Rotary Club Student of the Month. And bless her heart, she set her principal in her place because she had a teacher that knew that was giving a test and she could not miss this test at all. So bless her heart for the hard work that she's put forth to earn this award. I attended the Literacy Night last Thursday at Valley View. We had a huge turnout to enjoy a book fair and space camp activities. I've also enjoyed making popcorn at Valley View as a fundraiser with parent assistance. And the Valley View Parent Teacher Council meeting is going to be held tomorrow evening at 4:15. It will be a Zoom or an in-person meeting. I also have enjoyed helping with the recent Heritage Quiz Bowl on February 17th. Access Vision was filming throughout the competition. I know Mr. Thompson was very confident in leaving the filming of the event to his intern student. And it was just amazing to see him pop up at various parts of the event during the day. Access Vision was filming for this competition. They're just not sure when it will be shown to the public. It's certainly, as Dr. Carter has said, a great day with great supporters, whether it was families, volunteers, and the students. I attended the Soul Food Luncheon at Kellogg Community College in honor of Black History Month. It was a great celebration with a very long line of people wanting to enjoy the soul food, but it was worth the wait because that line moved right along. And I've enjoyed sharing 2 books with Dudley students last Tuesday, and as well as my reading buddy. Ann J. Kellogg is coming along. She's really made some great improvements because she's starting to bring books that is on her level, and she's so excited to be a confident reader of those books. So it's really been a great joy, and happy reading, everybody.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll make this quick. On Tuesday, I took the day off work, okay? I normally don't do that. I went to Ann J. Bentley's running Ann J. That's Bentley, okay? She's running Ann J. Went over to Northwestern, ran into Dr. Magashi, and they do have 2 bulletin boards up regarding their reading. So you go over there and take a look at that if you like. I was a reader at Dudley also on Tuesday. I had the 2nd graders. And they have their books up with the clothespins. They
Yes,
have
they do,
laundry
yeah.
clothespins hanging around theirs. I went over there to WK Prep to check on, see what they're doing. I spent over an hour over there. The principal had lots of conversations, but everything is at peace over there. I did attend the KCC Black History Dinner, and I was one of those who were there early, so I did not have the line to stand into.
Good job.
And I think that's all that I did, all that on Tuesday. Anything else to come before the board? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Somebody needs to switch that thing.
You're turning us off, Nate, since you're in here.
Because Charlie's not here.
I have 14%. Made it. I never bring in my charger because